He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife, the Duke of Deportation. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The fact that Donald Trump will become the 47th President of the United States has again brought the issue of Prince Harry's visa application back on the spotlight. There are those that would relish the prospect of him being booted out of the United States, with the consequences that would flow for both him and this one's wife. Richard Eden writes in the Daily Mail more about this issue. Let's see if this sheds some light on the possibility or probability of Harry finding himself in difficulties. Mr. Eden writes, "When I disclosed last month that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex had bought a home on the coast of Portugal, the reasons behind the purchase remain shrouded in mystery." Now, pausing there. Some people have thought, is it because it will enable them to be closer to the United Kingdom? Some thought, is it a bolt hole as a consequence of Harry seeking to place himself there, with the rumours of divorce being imminent? Or is it the case that he's caught up in the Diddy scandal? You may recall that Jaguar Wright asserted that there is a video that involves Harry and this one's wife, but the veracity of that individual has yet to be tested, and no further details have been given as to what was involved in respect of that video. Is it the case that Harry was simply in the background, or was he participating in something that has been recorded that he doesn't want the world to see, and that he fears that there might be some form of prosecution involved, or that he would get caught up in the scandal, thus he would then seek to place himself outside of the United States? Or has it been the case that with the possibility of a Trump victory, Harry was thinking ahead that, hey, I might get booted out here, so I better have somewhere to go to? Or was it simply a marketing gimmick, whereby he gets a bit of time staying at one of the luxury places in exchange for doing Jack Brooksbank a favour by plugging the development which Mr. Brooksbank has an involvement with? Well, Mr. Eden disclosed that the purchase has been made, although there are still some that believe that that's not the case. He posed the question, why had the couple bought their first European property after being evicted from Windsor Frogmore Cottage by King Charles early last year? He states, now things may have become clearer. Prince Harry and this one's wife could have been seeking an escape route if Donald Trump returned to the White House. A royal source told him earlier this year that the Sussexes were making increasingly desperate efforts to extend the olive branches, the well-worn olive branches taken out of their box and wafted through the air once again. It follows a string of hostile comments from the Trump family, see parts passim. During a visit to the Trump International Golf Links in Scotland in August, the president-elect's son Eric called the Duke and Duchess spoiled apples and echoed his father's claims that Harry could be deported if the Republicans won. You can happily have those too, Eric added. We might not want them anymore. It feels like they're on an island of their own. Donald Trump had previously suggested that Harry, who has lived in California since 2020, would not get special privileges, and indeed may be deported if he is found to have falsified information on his visa form. In his memoir Spare, the prince revealed that he formerly took drugs including cocaine, cannabis, and psychedelic mushrooms, which under US law would typically be grounds for a visa application to be rejected. Last month, a conservative US think tank attempted to reopen its court case to force the Department for Homeland Security to disclose the prince's immigration records, on the basis that it had not been allowed to see private submissions to the judge made by the Biden administration. There is, of course, previous between the Trumps and this one's wife. When she was still an actress, she described Trump Sr. as divisive and a misogynist. Someone who worked for the royals while the couple was still part of the firm told Eden in August it seems quite clear that the Sussexes are desperate to start healing the rift with the royal family. As evidence, the source pointed to the string of stories that had recently appeared in People magazine, a favoured outlet of Harry and this one's wife. They included an article in July about Harry's despair that his father was not accepting his phone calls, and another claiming that his rift with Prince William was not irreparable. These comments, following an interview Harry gave in February, suggest that the King's cancer diagnosis could help them put their differences aside. Following his 26-hour visit to see his father earlier that month, Harry said, "Throughout all these families, I see it on a day-to-day basis, the strength of the family unit coming together. I think any illness, any sickness brings families together." The Prince has claimed that Britain is too dangerous a destination for his family since his automatic taxpayer-funded security was withdrawn by the government after he stepped back as a working royal. Reconciliation with the firm aside, Eden writes, acquiring a golden visa would help this one's wife should she and her husband develop their plans to become the rival royals across the water, enabling them to travel easily through Europe. And that's assuming anybody would be interested in having them visit. We've already seen them undertake quasi-royal tours of Nigeria and Colombia, with more overseas trips in the works. Or are there? Though Richard Eden suggests that it is a concern of Harry's that he might be deported. We don't actually have any evidence from him that Harry is concerned by this prospect, other than suggesting that was the basis for purchasing the property. But it might be that the property was purchased simply because he wanted to be closer to the United Kingdom, but still doesn't want to be based in the United Kingdom because this one's wife doesn't want to live there. As I've explained to you on repeated occasions before, her narcissism still sees it as a hostile place and therefore keeps her away from it as a consequence of the perception of a hostile media, hostile populace, and hostile royal family. Thus, it might not actually be the case that Harry is concerned about deportation, and it might be linked to wanting to be closer to the United Kingdom because they need to try and foster better relations with the royal family, because that is the only string to the bow that they actually have, as we've seen them fail in relation to so many other things. What are the views of those below the line? Do they think that deportation is something that is imminent? Do they think that Harry is going to get a Trump boot up his ass and to send him out of the country? Is it the case that people believe that is what is going to happen? Well, we shall see. Willow Zip states, "Good grief, they're not that important, as if Trump doesn't have bigger issues to resolve. Trump will let courts handle legal issues. If there is an issue with Harry's visa or anyone else who's here as a non-citizen, the law will deal with it. Trump delegates. The only reason Harry should be concerned is if he's done something wrong. That didn't start with Trump." Save the Clock Tower, "I think this one's wife did the following, played into Harry's insecurities about his visa, then pressured him into using his inheritance funds to convince him to undertake the Portugal purchase. Not that she can claim, or rather now she can claim that as community property if they divorce. Otherwise, inheritances are kept separate in divorce." So somebody thinking that it's a ruse by this one's wife to try and get her hands on his inheritance money by making it go into property. Still stargazing, glad to see they didn't buy a house here in the United Kingdom. They've well and truly burned their bridges. They're an irrelevance to everyone, both sides of the pond. Lily on the pond, "Why would he be afraid if he didn't lie? But knowing his and his wife's history, I'd be surprised to hear that he told the truth on the forms." Lunch Pruner Shelf, "There is a redacted statement on his visa application. What was redacted, we don't know. So he did declare something that was redacted, lest it cause him embarrassment and damage his reputation. So we know that concessions were made. What's more concerning is what type of US visa has been granted to Harry, and based on that, is the US taxpayer paying for his security?" Rose Gold, why should Harry be given special treatment because he was born into royalty? He chose to leave this country, to leave his family and position in life for pastures new. His choice to reside in the USA, yet if his past does not meet with the conditions of being granted a visa, because let's face reality, it's not squeaky clean, then no, he ought not to be granted one. That's wrong to give him one just because of who his father is. Really, states, I would think that his visa is of interest to US citizens, especially those who have loved ones who have applied honestly, put down their drug use and were subsequently refused a visa. They will want to know whether he has done the same. What do you think? Do you think this purchase in Portugal is because Harry was anticipating a risk of being booted out of the United States? Do you think it's a load of brouhaha about very little, that ultimately either Trump won't be bothered about it because he's got bigger fish to fry, or even if he were concerned about it, he won't do it because he doesn't want to embarrass King Charles? Do you think it is the case that it is a real risk for Harry and he is concerned about it? Or do you think that he's behaved in his usual arrogance and hasn't been concerned about it, and the purchase of the property was nothing to do with the risk of being deported? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.